And you're waking up with Damo here on Forward WK. Well, it is time for us to get a bit of local history in our ears, and we do that, of course, with Harold Peacock from History Out There. How are you, mate?
Oh, very well, thanks, Damo. All refreshed after a long weekend with another good story for you.
Well, this is true. And we're going back, in fact, 130 years, because this year is the 130th anniversary of one of the most moving funerals in Dalby history.
Yeah, that's right. Look, as I research history, you come across some things and think, oh, gee, that would be amazing things to see, or that's so sad. And this is one of them, because it's the funeral for John Jessup, who arrived on the Darling Downs in the 1860s. Now, he had pastoral selections at Greenbank, Durrard, Dardine and Chinchilla. He was the official starter of the Northern Downs Jockey Club and was one of the best pitch and shots in Queensland. And Jessup was a Dalby alderman, Dalby mayor, and for 12 years he represented Dalby in Queensland Parliament.
Right.
Yeah, now look, his most trusted friend was Jerry Sweeney, who was one of the best-known men in the district. Now, Sweeney was a compositor on the Dalby Herald and later had the Golden Fleece Hotel in Dalby. Now, this was one of the oldest hotels in town and catered especially for drovers and station hands. So it was had a bit of character. In fact, Sweeney even hosted there the first marsupial skin sales in Dalby, and we're talking kangaroos and possums, that kind of stuff. So,
right. Okay.
It was a bit of a sight to see back in the day. And Sweeney's wife, she was well known in her own right, because in the 1870s, she performed an act of heroism by diving fully clothed into a flooded river to rescue someone being swept away in the water. So these are really, really good characters in the district. But back to Mayor John Jessup, whose life was one of success and, dare I say it, tragedy. Now, he and his wife Sarah had 11 children, but suffered their fair share of sadness. You see, well, Jessup was first elected to Parliament in 1882, but in the middle of an election campaign the following year, his youngest daughter Isabella passed away at just 14 months old. A month later, he was re-elected to Parliament, so he just battled on through. In 1887, Jessup was in Brisbane for a sitting of Parliament when he received the awful telegram that his youngest son Robert, aged just 3.5, was missing. Now, the whole of Dalby joined in the search. Word was also sent to all adjacent country residents, and all available help was dispatched to look for the little boy. You know, the residents of Doonbon Accord and other places joining in the search. As the possibility of finding the boy alive faded, the nearby creek to their home was dragged in every likely place, but nothing was found. And eventually, with all hope gone, Jessup made the awful decision to have the creek dynamited in the hope of raising the body. Now, eventually, 3 days after disappearing, the body of the poor little fellow was discovered in a well, 60 feet deep in Jessup's yard. So, but when Jessup's own time came 8 years later, in 1895, that's when he passed away, he was 54 years old, and his funeral must have been one of the most moving ever seen in the district. You see, Jessup's instructions were carried out to the letter. He had expressly stipulated that his remains should be carried to the grave in his own buggy, drawn by his favourite horse and driven by his best friend, Jerry Sweeney.
Right.
Now, the funeral cortege made quite a sight as it extended for over half a mile to honour the man who would, in reality, he'd swayed the destiny of Dalby more than 20 years. Now, today, the last resting place of the Mayor and Member of Parliament, and that of his 2 young children, is marked by a headstone which has fallen on the ground. You can still read it, but it's a shame that it's still not standing like it was 130 years ago this year, as it was shortly after his old white horse took the Mayor for his last drive.
Very sad indeed, mate, and even sadder that a lot of those grave sites now are falling into disrepair.
Yeah, that's right, but that's no reason for us to forget it, because just imagine the sight of the buggy and the white horse and his favourite buggy and his friend going to that Dalby cemetery with a half-mile cortege behind him. that sight of that white horse, I just found that really moving when I came across that.
Yeah, for sure. Mate, we can read all about that story simply by jumping onto your website, can't we?
Yes, look on the website, historyouthere.com, or you can find links Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at historyouthere.com. And Damo, I post these stories typically Friday mornings because that's when people have time to see them. So you'll be able to see the written version of this on Friday.
All right, there you go, historyouthere.com. And, mate, we'll look forward to catching up with you again next week. You have a great week.
You too. I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. There we go. Harold Peacock with some local history about that wonderful story, and you can view that on Friday on historyouthere.com. We're going to check birthdays coming up next.